Hello, and welcome to the Brutal Iron Gym podcast, where our goal is to cut through the BS and deliver the brutal truth about topics related to health and happiness. Today's podcast number 1674. The topic is mindset, and the title is Managing Self-Sabotage, Mindset and Behaviors. Okay. So, a client recently, they had a kick-ass amazing workout, hit a new PR on one of their exercises. Super excited about that. But then they went home and they had some handful of chocolates that they shouldn't have had according to kind of their normal behaviors, like whatever their normal macro count would be in regards to calories and, protein targets and whatnot. It's not that chocolate is bad for you or chocolate is wrong. It's just they didn't account for it. And they recognized it was more of like an emotional eating rather than a planned snack, something like that. So what shocked them was more so the fact that it felt like it wasn't controlled. They had a great workout, but then they ate something off their plan. They had one step forward, but then they took a step back. So they were wondering why. Like, why do they do that to themselves? Why do people in general do that? In a sense, it was something that set them back that they knew wasn't the right thing, like the right choice in the moment, but they still did it anyhow. Why is that? I feel that a lot of us can understand with that, like, and relate to that. A lot of us, when presented with choices to make, we don't always make the long-term beneficial choice. Sometimes we make the short-term, it helps me feel better choice. It's normal in the sense that a lot of times it's normal. Like, people deal with that. And there are a lot of reasons that we do, but a lot of people do that. Even successful people don't make the perfect choice all of the time. They just make the better choice more often than unsuccessful people do. So I think that's one component, is if we think, if I want to be successful towards my goals, I can never make any mistakes. Well, that's not true. No successful person has ever not made a mistake. They make mistakes, but they do more things right than they do wrong. They eventually make progress. Then they continue to do increasingly more things right and increasingly less things wrong. And then they continue to make increasing progress. Eventually they get to a balance point where they're getting enough right and so few things wrong that it looks like success. It's not that there's nothing ever done wrong. It's just it's infrequent enough that it's not limiting that successful component. I have helped people achieve really awesome goals when it comes to physical fitness and the body. I've helped people earn pro cards in powerlifting, which is less than 1% of competitive powerlifters achieve that. I've helped people earn pro cards in aesthetic sports. I don't know the exact percentage, but I'm sure that that's around the same percentage. It's extremely rare. The people that I've helped do that still make mistakes. They do enough things right that those mistakes don't hold them back, but they still make mistakes. That happens. Recently, there was a powerlifter who wanted to go set world records, and he had world record strength, but he had a crappy day. He said everything felt heavy that day, didn't feel right. He just had a bad day. And that happens, even to a world record holder. Somebody where this is their entire job, this is all they do all day, this is what they've dedicated their life to. They had a bad day, had a bad meet, and didn't turn out well. They're going to come back, and they're going to do really well. They've said that this isn't the first bad meet they've ever had. It just happens. It just happens. Sometimes we have bad days. Sometimes we make bad choices. Overwhelmingly, and there's a lot of factors into it, we're going to talk about that a little bit here, but overwhelmingly I find, working with clients, that most often bad choices are made out of the desire to avoid stress. People are overstressed in a lot of areas of life. And then whenever they're faced with a choice that's either increased stress or you get a moment of happiness, they're going to choose the moment of happiness because they don't have enough happiness. Or they have too much stress, and it's like, oh, for the love of God, I just want to have So I'm going to sit down and eat some food. I don't want to have to take the time to cook. I don't want to have to track my macros. I don't want to have to do all the damn work. I'm so tired. I'm overwhelmed, stressed, a million things I got to do. I just want to freaking eat the food. We just want some reprieve. We want some release. We want a moment to just enjoy. Overwhelmingly, that's why most people make bad choices, is they're just looking for more comfort in life. A lot of people, they sleep in instead of getting up early to work out. Why? Because you're freaking tired. You're tired. You just want some freaking sleep. You're stressed. You're tired. You're overwhelmed. You're overworked. And the desire to get up early, which means you get less sleep, and to work out, which means you have to exert more energy. It doesn't sound like a great choice at 5 a.m. At 5 a.m., you're like, I feel like crap. I'm going to keep sleeping. Maybe I'll work out at lunch. You tell yourself whatever bullshit lies you're going to tell yourself so you can keep sleeping. You're like, oh, yeah, I think, I could take a lunch break. I could take an extra half hour. I'll do it after work. Like, right when I leave work, I won't even come home first. I'm going to drive right to the gym. What happens at lunch? You have a work call that goes right through lunch. What happens after work? You're tired as hell. You have a million things you got to do, and you're going to start right back into work the next day, so you got to get your butt home so you can take care of those other things. It happens. It happens. How we can help it happen less often is to consider kind of ways in which we can minimize our stress in all areas of life and not put ourselves in positions that make bad choices easier or more tempting. For example, people struggle often with situational triggers. You're trying to follow your nutrition plan, but maybe you have a spouse or significant other who isn't, and they want to go out to eat, and you're like, dang, I know if I go out to eat, there might be some extra calories in all the foods. I know maybe if we go to this restaurant, if I get maybe chicken breast and some vegetables, that can keep the calories kind of low. But they said they want to go to this other place, and I don't know if that place has anything good. And it's just like, oh my gosh, it starts being crazy stressful, right? So you don't want to have to think through all that. You don't want to have to plan all that. So you just go and you eat whatever. And you're like, dang it, I shouldn't have done that. Maybe I could have went to the restaurant that had the chicken and the vegetables and just ate that. Or your significant other is like, hey, why don't you have dessert with me? Or why don't you have this cookie? Or you should try this drink. And you're like, that's not what I want. So sometimes it's other people, whether it's a significant other, whether it's friends, maybe coworkers. We're just around other people that don't have the same goals. And that kind of just in its own way, in a lot of variety of ways, can impact how well we adhere to our goals. There's also situational triggers, such as, I know one client, they were struggling with overeating on Mondays. What happened was they have long work hours on Thursday and Friday, and then they have very busy weekends. They have very long shifts, long work hours Thursday and Friday. They come into the end of Friday very tired. Saturday and Sunday is very chaotic. They try to get workouts in because those are technically days off from work. But sometimes they get their meals in, sometimes they don't. Sometimes they have to travel, sometimes they miss a workout. They come into Monday with things being more normal, but so freaking tired, and now they're hungry because their food was way inconsistent on Saturday and Sunday, and they were in a deficit coming in from Thursday and Friday. So all of a sudden on Monday, they would binge eat. They would feel guilty. So it led into binging and purging, and then binging and self-hate. And then they would start to try to work out 2 workouts a day on Monday because they felt so bad about overeating. And it was just really unhealthy day. They started having anxiety thinking about Monday's coming. So on Wednesday, they knew that they would already have anxiety about Monday, the following Monday, because on Thursday and Friday, they were going to be so busy at work, so tired, they would miss their meals. And they knew then that on the weekend, they had to try to be more strict, but they had family obligations, spousal obligations, and they just couldn't control enough things on Saturday and Sunday. So every single Monday, they'd come in, they'd overeat, they'd feel like crap, they'd exercise, which then made them feel like even worse, because then Tuesday and Wednesday, they tried to be over-restrictive. And oh my gosh, was it just a really, really bad cycle. So their trigger was just being tired, was being underfed. Some people's triggers are being in social environments, being around other people if they're not, following kind of the same goals. There's a lot of triggers. You could just see a commercial or an advertisement, and all of a sudden you're hungry. A trigger can be at the end of the day, you finally get to sit down on your couch. You've gone through all the rigmarole and chaos of the day. You did your work. You did all the crap around the house. You finally get to sit down, and when you sit down, you'd like to enjoy some food. You haven't gotten to enjoy your food all damn day because you've been so busy. You're just shoving in whatever you can whenever you can. Now you finally get to sit down. You just want to eat something that tastes good, makes you feel good while you sit down and relax and enjoy that moment of the day. These are all kind of like normal reactions, but we tend to beat ourselves up for them. They are reactions that we would want to kind of, address and see if we can figure out a better or more healthier way to deal with it. But it's not something we should beat ourselves up for. Just recognize that, this is less than ideal. What can I do to counter this? Another situation people find themselves in is they're over-restrictive with their food. They're in too large of a caloric deficit, so much so that they get these sensations of cravings. They get triggered by everything and anything, and then they overeat. So their main reason for overeating is because they're too severely undereating. And no matter what you do, you cannot fight that off forever. Your body will win. It will send signals. You'll have this intense craving, this feeling, this thought process all day where everything is centered around how you feel about food, what somebody else is eating, what they're not eating. And it consumes you until you eat the food. And then you get a little bit of a reprieve, a little bit of relaxation. But then you feel bad. So you go back to undereating. And then those feelings build and build and build again. So we have to make sure that we don't put ourselves in situations that are beyond our willpower. So, for example, you want to have a nutrition plan that has the correct amount of deficit. You want to eat the right amount of calories. If you're supposed to have some high-calorie days, that's probably a reason, because it prevents the cravings from taking over and building up too much. So you want to make sure you eat your proper calorie targets. If you don't have a meal plan, you can create one for free on our website. Go to www.bruleironGym.com. Free nutrition education. On that page, there's a document that'll teach you how to write your own nutrition program, totally for free. So you'll know the right amount of calories you should have if you're having the right amount of deficit or too much of a deficit. How about training? When we exercise, we create stress to our body. We have to exert energy and experience stress to exercise. Even though it's good stress, it's still stress. Then after the training, our body's beat up, it's tired, it has a lot of recovery demands. Well, if you can't sleep properly, the only other way to meet the recovery demands is through food. I know some clients in the past have struggled with overeating because they're only getting, say, 6-7 hours of sleep. It's not very good quality of sleep. They're not going to bed at a regular time. They're kind of falling asleep watching their phone or watching TV. They're staying up too late because they don't have enough time for themselves during the day. So they only find the little bit of time that's actually for them at the end of the day when they're dead tired. So they just mindlessly watch television or scroll social media. It's not a really good quality of me time. They would be better to go to bed early and spend the me time in the morning when they have some energy. But again, they're not going to go to bed early because they're strung out and tired. Maybe they're just too tired to be tired. Too much cortisol, too much on their mind. So they have to work on melatonin, maybe get supplements to help like that. Work on better sleep patterning, get a better sleep routine. They have to try to find a way to get to bed early first before they can get up early. And then the first week or two of getting to bed early, they're probably just going to want to soak in all the extra sleep. If you've only been sleeping 5-6 hours, and then all of a sudden you try to go to bed early, you might need to go to bed early and then still sleep your fuller amount, like to the normal time frame that you would get up. Now all of a sudden it's 7 or 8 hours. You might need to do that for 2 weeks before you build up enough reserve to actually get up earlier. You might need to stagger your days. Maybe you only get up earlier on Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday and Friday. Maybe on Wednesday you take the time and you sleep in. You get the extra sleep. There are ways in which we need to account for what's dragging us down, what's causing problems for us. We don't want to beat ourselves up and then think there's nothing that can be done. If you recognize a negative behavior, just say, okay, let me start working on this. Let me see, I've recognized it. I'm aware of it. What can I do to correct it? And that also comes into kind of self-talk. If your self-talk is super negative, if it's demotivating, then you're not going to probably seek out options or opportunities or corrections or ways in which you could get better. If your self-talk is you're always a failure, then you're likely to fulfill that self-talk. You're likely to remain a failure. If your self-talk is, oh my gosh, this is impossible, I can never get out of this, then again, you're likely not to. You're likely not to seek out the extra things. You're likely to also get into this kind of all or nothing type mindset where I have to change everything rather than changing small amounts or changing for periods of time. So for example, if you want to get up earlier, if you try to go to bed earlier and then still sleep the full, all the time. So maybe you normally go to bed at 12 and you have to get up at 6. Start going to bed, laying in bed at 10:30. Maybe you don't fall asleep right away. Maybe you have to read a book. Get off your phone, but read an actual book, like physical hard copy book. Do something that it gives you the sense of doing something, but it's not as stimulating as, say, watching. If you read something, you have to do the actual mental gymnastics of reading and comprehending, and you have to stay kind of focused into that so it can help kind of block out other thoughts. It's more of an active thing, but it's not stimulating. Then watching something on your phone, it's overly stimulating, but it's not mentally active. So you still are thinking of all these other things, or you're paying in it, you're in it, the attention of it, then you're out of the attention. Whereas physical reading, you have to stay kind of in it the whole time. So it's a much better activity if you want to fall asleep. So maybe you start laying in bed at 10:30. Maybe the first week you only actually fall asleep early 2 times. So you normally would go to bed at midnight and get up at 6. Now you're going to bed at 10:30. Sleep until 6 anyhow. Don't worry about getting up early yet. Just go to bed early. Maybe the first week, like I said, you only fall asleep early twice. Do it for another week. Maybe this time you fall asleep early 3-4 times. Do it for another week. Now all of a sudden you're falling asleep 4 out of 5 nights during the week, and you're getting all the sleep till 6. You're finally getting the recovery that for so long you didn't have. Do that the 3rd and the 4th week. Then maybe the next month, week number 5. Keep that 10:30 bedtime, but maybe get up twice the week. Instead of at 6, get up at 5 and do 30 minutes of exercise. So you might need to kind of make it a process. Take it step by step. Things aren't always off and on. Light switch. I'm going to start going to bed early so I get up early. It didn't work the first night. I'm a loser, so I'm going to quit. It likely will take some steps. It's going to take some time, especially when we take on new behaviors, like if you're brand new to tracking nutrition, for example. You're not just going to all of a sudden start doing that every day and be super consistent with it. If it takes 10-15 minutes, you likely already did not have 10 to 15 minutes. So you don't know where to put that because you haven't thought about not doing something else. So you actually have 10 to 15 minutes. You're still going to do all you normally do and then magically find an extra 10 or 15 minutes every day? It's not going to happen, right? So there's a learning curve. You start to realize, okay, crap, I'm not getting this done. I do have to maybe shorten some other things. Maybe every night when I sit down for dinner, while it's cooking, I'll enter my food for the day. Or after I'm done eating, before I do the dishes, I'll enter my food. Or something. You just kind of start planning it. You say, okay, when I do this, I also add this. When I have this established behavior that I do normally, let me add this new behavior. So it's a process. A lot of everything, I know I'm rambling quite a bit, but a lot of this factors into self-sabotaging behavior because we tend to think that we need to change everything immediately. We we don't recognize that it will take time. It'll be a process. You're going to make a ton of mistakes along the way. And often we tend to do kind of too big of changes. I'm going to do all of this or none of it, or it's time I'm just going to eat healthy. That's it. Every day I'm going to have oatmeal for breakfast. You might not even like oatmeal. It's just what you think is healthy. So all of a sudden now you try to have oatmeal every day. Oatmeal, in my opinion, is disgusting. I hate oatmeal. I've eaten it so many years of my life because that's what bodybuilders said to do when I was younger. So I've eaten a fair share of oatmeal. I have eaten it for years, even though I don't like it. But every time I'm out of a specific goal, like if I'm not working on a specific goal with a specific timeline, I never eat oatmeal because it's disgusting. It's like wet, mushy paper stuff. It's not hard enough that you need to chew it, but it's too clumpy and thick that you can't just like swallow it. It's not even food. Like what in the hell is that consistency? If you chew it, you're just chewing endlessly because there's nothing to actually break down. But you can't just drink it because that's weird and kind of gross because it's too thick. Like it's just awkward. I hate oatmeal. So if I'm like, that's it, tomorrow I'm going to eat healthy, I'm going to eat oatmeal every day for breakfast. Bullshit. I'm going to do it a couple of days and realize how much I hate it. And then I'm going to start to try to add more things to oatmeal. So like, maybe I'll do a scoop of peanut butter. Maybe I'll sprinkle in some cinnamon. You start adding all these things. Well, instead of making it with water, maybe I'll make it with some milk. And that makes it a little bit creamier. Then, I'll do this to it. And all of a sudden, you're no longer eating oatmeal. You're eating 7,000 ingredients. And all of a sudden, it's 4 times the calories. And it just builds and goes crazy. Because you started with something you hated. Don't eat food you hate. Eat food you like, but just the right amounts of it. So, a lot of this factors into self-sabotage. If we have negative self-talk, that's something we want to work on. Sometimes people have the fear of failure, and this is so weird, but because they think they're going to fail, they don't even try. So instead, they're just a failure because they didn't try. It's more scary to try and fail than to not try at all and just say, yeah, I'm a failure. It's easier, in a sense, to believe that you're a failure than to prove it to yourself. That's disappointing. And I've done that several times. It's hard. You set a goal and you're like, I'm going to do this. This time I'm really going to do it. And you get a week in, 2 weeks in, maybe a couple months in. And then all of a sudden it crashes and burns. And then you're like, damn it, I couldn't do it. I really, really, really thought maybe I could this time. But I didn't. And then you have this realization that I actually, for real, legitimately tried. And I couldn't do it. I am a failure. Not that I believed I'm a failure anymore, or thought that maybe I was. I know it. I know I'm a failure now. Oh, that's so depressing. It's also an incorrect way to look at it. Because just because you made a mistake doesn't mean you failed forever. Maybe you did something right for 7 days, 2 weeks, 24 hours, a couple months, whatever the time frame was that you had it right. That might have been more right than you've ever been before. Or more right than you've been recently. And just because you messed up one day, 1 week, or quit for a couple months, doesn't mean you can't go right back to it. And maybe this time you go back to it a little bit smarter. Maybe you're more aware of what caused you to fall off track. And you're like, okay, let me account for that thing now. And maybe make it a little bit further next time. Maybe you don't make it further at all. You run into a new problem and now you got to try to solve that one. Again, it's a process. And again, you will make mistakes. You just don't stop. Just say, why did I make that mistake? What can I do to account for it? And let me keep going. Sometimes we also have the fear of change. If we're familiar with our pain that we're in now, or discomfort or unhappiness, but it's familiar. This is the way it's always been, right? If you try something new, is it going to get better or is it going to feel worse? Sometimes we think if we're going to try something new and it doesn't work, then there's no hope for it to ever change ever. We'd rather have the hope for change unfulfilled than to try it, have it not work, and think that change isn't possible at all. Well, if you're in that kind of camp, if you're in that mindset, recognize that with what you know, then you may have tried everything you know and it isn't working. It doesn't mean that you're destined for failure forever. You just have to increase what you know. Read more books, listen to more podcasts, watch more videos on YouTube, hire a professional. Find somebody who's done it or helped others do it and have them help you. If you've tried everything you know, try what somebody else knows. Try a different set of knowledge, right? Or build upon your knowledge. Just because we make mistakes, just because we make bad choices, does not mean that we're a failure, we're a loser. It doesn't mean we're destined to never be successful. A mistake is a mistake. Don't over-dramatize mistakes. If you make a bad choice, you made a bad choice. The next time you have a choice, make a good one. You can change your choices. Just choose the better choice next time when given the chance. You're not going to always make perfect choices. Like I said, successful people don't always make perfect choices. They just make better choices more often than they used to. That's how they got better than where they used to be. And you can do that too. So some tips that I think would be helpful is to set small goals. Don't try to go black and white. Don't try to do all or nothing. Don't try to reinvent the wheel, start all over. Just do small goals. So for example, if they look at their food and they're like, damn it, I'm kind of eating over my meal plan a couple times a week. Well, I know one client, for example, they have a sweet treat every day. Every day they have something that has way too much sugar, not enough protein, and they're off on their macros. They have all their other meals right. And if they were to get rid of that one thing every day, they would actually be right on track. Don't try to just cut it out completely. Just say, can I do it every other day? Or can I have it maybe once during the week and then I'll have it on both weekend days? Hell, that's better than having it every day. That's still going to get you progress, right? You don't have to avoid it forever because the belief that you can never have it makes you want to have it every day. The belief that you can have it a couple times a week, but you can also say no some days. If you're not really needing it that day, just say no that day. You don't have to do that every day. You don't have to hit a certain number of days. Just if you don't feel like you need it that day, try to say no that day. See if you can say no once a week, twice a week, 3 times a week. If it only gets to 3 times a week where you don't have it, great. That's still better than before where you had to have it every day, right? Small goals. Just small little steps. If you're trying to eat healthy, just pick one meal a day. Try to have that healthier, right? Small goals. You want to account for mistakes, meaning that know and recognize that you will make mistakes along the way. Just because you make one bad choice does not mean that you are a failure, you're a loser, doesn't mean you're destined for anything, forever and ever and ever. If you make a bad choice, you made a bad choice. See if there's something you can recognize in the moment that you can account for the next time. But it's a choice. Just move on and make the better one next time. That's it. Don't over-dramatize mistakes. Recognize that your goal is to make progress, not to be perfect. You just want to make better choices more often than you used to. Doesn't mean you can never make a bad choice. Just make better choices more often than you used to. And one other tip that I would suggest is to consider your influences. Your influences on social media, your influences on the people around you. If you have things on social media that every time you see, it makes you feel depressed or disappointed or sad, get rid of that. Unfollow those people or that account or whatever it is. Block it, whatever the hell you have to do. If there's something that every time you see it, you feel sad. If there's something that every time you see it, you're like, oh, I'm such a loser. I'm never going to get that. Get rid of those things. If there's people around you that have negative mindsets, they're always bitching and whining and complaining, spend less time with those people. And the people around me, I feel very bad for sometimes the people around me, I'm sorry. But I cannot stand when people bitch and whine about things. Like, there are certain components of life that absolutely suck. But if people talked about the good things in their life, as often as they talked about the things that they don't like, I think that you would realize that you won't even have time to talk about the things you don't like. There are so many good things in life. Things that you can truly be grateful for and be excited about and be happy that you have. So much so that if you were to talk about them, there wouldn't be space in your day to talk about the other shit. Talk about the good things as often as you talk about the bad things. At least make it 50-50. And I believe that you would realize that there isn't as much to bitch and whine about as what you do bitch and whine about. Yeah, there are things that are annoying in life, but reliving them by complaining about it again doesn't make it go away. There was a sport video I saw, and I loved this video. There was a football game at the end of a football game. I don't know if it was the end of a football game, but this one team, this guy was blocking. It was in running football, so he was blocking a defender so his teammate could run into the end zone. Well, the defender did not like being blocked. He was frustrated and mad. So what happened was, as the running back or receiver, whoever the hell had the ball, as they passed their teammate, and the teammate recognized that their teammate was going to win, like going to get the touchdown. As the defender recognized that they missed the opportunity for the play, they got mad and they punched the offensive player that was blocking them in the face, like in the face mask. So they jammed their face, like their hand into their face, and basically like what would be equivalent of a punch, but the person has a helmet on, so it's pretty damn stupid to punch somebody in the face if they have a helmet on anyhow. But he punched him in the face, the equivalent of that. And then all of a sudden he recoiled, expecting the offensive player to hit him back. The offensive player actually just went around him, like ran around him, and went to celebrate the touchdown with his teammate. So the guy who was blocking for his teammate got punched in the face and didn't even bother responding to it, acknowledging it. He just went to go find his teammate to celebrate the win. Absolutely love this. He got punched in the face. But once the punch happened, it was over. What benefit would he get by punching the defender back? He's only going to hurt his own damn hand because that guy has a helmet on too. It's pretty damn stupid to punch somebody with a helmet on. He's probably also going to get a foul called against him because people never see the initiation. They always see the response. That's just something that's true in sports too often. So he's going to get a penalty. Maybe the touchdown doesn't count, or the team gets penalized in some way after the touchdown. And there's no benefit. The person who punched him isn't going to learn I shouldn't punch people. There's no lesson learned there. If anything, the lesson was learned when the offensive player didn't retaliate. The defender realized, holy crap, I punched him in the face, and he just doesn't care. Like, he's so focused on the good things, he's so focused on his teammate scoring a touchdown, that he could care less about the bad things. If you focus on the good things of life, you'll recognize that you don't need so much negativity and bullshit and reliving all the negative stuff. Oh my gosh. So if you're around those people, if you are those people, work on it. Work on it. If you respond and kind of relive all the negative crap of your day, stop doing that. Look past the negative and celebrate the touchdowns. Celebrate the good stuff. You're going to have a much more positive mindset, a much more proactive mindset. And you're going to make better choices more often because you're focused on the better things of life. So limit negativity within you, limit negativity around you, and seek out positivity within you and seek out positivity around you. Find other successful people. Find other people who are working on being the best versions of themselves. It doesn't even matter if they have actually the same goal. They just have a goal and they're crushing every single day, waking up excited to work towards it. Talk together about the struggles that they have, the struggles that you have. Humanize the process. You're not a failure. There is nothing wrong with you if you make bad choices. Everybody makes bad choices. Just make them less often. And when you make bad choices, try to think about, why did I make that choice? Is there something that I can account for? So that way maybe next time I don't make that choice. So if you have chocolates around the house and you tend to overeat chocolates, get them out of the house. Or buy the chocolates in single serving. You know, if you like having like a chocolate bar once or twice a week, buy one chocolate bar. I know in America, at least, that's financially ridiculous because if you buy everything in bulk, you somehow get it like cheaper than a single thing. It's amazing. But buying in bulk is definitely more economical. But if it makes you make bad choices, don't buy in bulk. Buy single serving. So when you make mistakes, don't over-traumatize them. Just a mistake is a mistake. You are not a mistake. Just you made a mistake. Move on. Make a better choice the next choice you get. Account for why the mistake was made. Maybe there's something you can learn from it. Recognize that you don't have to be perfect. You just have to make small progress over time. Just make better choices over time. Try to be less negative in your mind. Try to be around negative people less. Try to be more positive in your mind and try to be around positive people more. All this stuff adds up to being helpful. I feel like today's podcast was maybe more of a discussion than like an actual help, like step-by-step kind of help thing. But I hope that it was just helpful just to hear that it's normal. It's normal to make bad choices from time to time. We're trying to avoid stress. We're just making choices in the moment based on the moment, not our desired future. And that happens for various reasons. We talk ourselves into bad choices just because we're negative mindset. We're negative self-belief, lack of confidence. We talk ourselves into bad choices if we're stressed out and tired. So try to get better sleep. Try to manage your stress better. Maybe we're in an environment, like we said, of like over dieting. So these feelings of cravings creep up too much. So we have to kind of make sure our diet's correct, make sure our training is correct. So you have to look at outside influences like triggers and, programs and stuff that we're doing. We have to look at inside influences, self-talk, the fear of failure, the fear of success, the fear of change, self-doubt. Just looking through all this, discussing all this, just thinking through it can help. Put it in perspective. Progress, not perfection. You will make mistakes. That's totally fine. Don't over-traumatize them. Learn from them, move on, and then try to be around more positive people. I hope the discussion helped in some way. If you have any questions, let me know. Our email is brutalirongym@gmail.com. I do have a couple podcasts that I would suggest that I think can help. So I want to just run off through those numbers so you can write them down. You can find all of our podcasts on our website. We have a podcast player that goes back 300 episodes, but you can also search. There's instructions for how to search for older podcasts. So when it comes to sleep, we do have podcast 1149. It's a mindset podcast titled Creating a Healthier Sleep Pattern. So that can help you learn more about how to improve your sleep quality. I know we can't always get quantity, but you can definitely improve your quality. So podcast 1149. We then talked about how to know if you have the right amount of calories, and that is on our website, www.brutalirongym.com. Go to free nutrition education, that document that's on that page. You can learn how to write your own nutrition program. Then we have stress management. There's a lot of kind of ways in which we can think about how to manage stress, but there's a couple podcasts I think that would help. There's one called Calming the Whirlwind, and that's with like everyday chaos. It's a mindset podcast number 596 titled Calming the Whirlwind, and that's how we better manage just everyday, day-to-day crap that we have to do so we don't feel so overwhelmed and so stressed by it. And then also we have a recent podcast, 1547. It's a mindset podcast titled Minimize Stress by Doing the Minimum. And it's a little play on words, but it'll help you better manage your stress. Okay? So, hopefully all those podcasts can add up to being something helpful. You can also reach out, like we said, and email me with any questions you have, and I'll be happy to help as well. Cool. Well, if you like our podcast, please share it. The more people we share it with, the more people can help. If you like the podcast, please consider donating towards it. We do have high hosting costs every year for all the different platforms we're on. If you want to support us, you can do so on our website, www.brilliantironjob.com. You can get on there and donate, even just $5 a month. Anything is helpful. If you like the information we share in our podcast, you can find more from us on our social media channels. You can find us and follow us on Instagram and on YouTube under the name Brutal Iron Gym. As always, I hope this was helpful, and thank you for listening.